Today is Friday, January 24th. We're talking about one of the first legal setbacks of President Trump's second term. A key immigration order was just blocked. Also, California firefighters race to get new fires under control as Trump considers withholding federal aid. He's visiting the disaster zone today. Plus, how pandas have been preparing for their public debut in the nation's capital today. What new technology can fill out forms, book flights, make restaurant reservations for you, and more. And the Oscar nominees are out. We'll tell you what all of this year's Best Picture contenders have in common. Those stories and even more news to know coming up. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. A key part of President Trump's long-promised immigration crackdown is now blocked. A federal judge issued a 2-week restraining order that keeps the government from moving forward with Trump's plan to end birthright citizenship. Now, as we've talked about earlier this week, Trump wants to end automatic citizenship for kids born in the U.S. to undocumented immigrants and foreign visitors. But the judge called that plan blatantly unconstitutional. Trump responded to say, quote, "There's no surprises with that judge, who was appointed by former President Reagan." And he promised to challenge the restraining order. Meanwhile, his opponents are hoping to get it extended. Legal experts say this one could eventually end up before the U.S. Supreme Court. Really, the argument here comes down to the 14th Amendment of the Constitution, which says people born here are U.S. citizens. But Trump's team argues unauthorized citizens are here illegally, and therefore they and their children are not granted the same rights. Across the country, an estimated 153,000 children are born in the U.S. to undocumented parents every year. President Trump is taking security details away from some key members of his last administration who have since criticized him publicly. Most recently, he revoked protection for his former Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, and his top aide. And earlier this week, he pulled the Secret Service detail for his former National Security Advisor, John Bolton. This, despite the fact that they faced ongoing threats from Iran because of actions they took during their time in the Trump administration. Trump defended his actions this week, though, saying it was costing millions of dollars a month to protect those former officials and that protection cannot last forever. Trump also revoked security clearances for dozens of former intelligence officials who signed a letter doubting the Hunter Biden laptop story a few years ago. Then, in a very unusual move, President Trump granted 6-month security clearances to incoming officials who have not gone through the whole vetting process. Trump says the problem is the process takes too long, as in over a year in some cases, and he needs people to be able to do what he hired them to do. So he signed an executive order. And with that, the president can basically give top security clearances to whomever he chooses. President Trump is declassifying assassination files. With that, Americans will get to see the rest of the documents related to the killings of former President John F. Kennedy, his brother Robert F. Kennedy, and civil rights leader Martin Luther King Jr. There has been speculation and conspiracy theories about each of the assassinations for decades, and Trump says the American people deserve transparency and truth. The president actually released thousands of documents already during his first term, but he agreed to some redactions back then because national security agencies wanted to protect sensitive information like intelligence gathering methods and partnerships. Now, Trump says he wants all of it released because there's public interest. The president's cabinet pick, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., believes the CIA had a role in assassinating his uncle and maybe his father, too. But in 60 years, no evidence has ever surfaced to support those claims. Trump says the documents will be made public within the next couple of weeks. President Trump issued more pardons, this time for nearly 24 anti-abortion activists. They were convicted for blocking access and temporarily shutting down abortion clinics during the Biden administration. At the time, federal authorities said they barricaded clinic doors, pushed and in some cases hurt clinic workers, and kept patients from getting time-sensitive health services. So some of those activists are now serving federal sentences. But Trump says they should have never been prosecuted, that they were unfairly targeted because of their beliefs. Now their names will be cleared and the ones in prison will be freed. Today, the president is also set to speak virtually to the annual anti-abortion March for Life rally at the nation's capital. Thousands of activists are expected to be there, along with Vice President J.D. Vance. The fire risk is finally easing up a little in California after weeks of wildfires that have left neighborhoods in ruins. And today, President Trump is going to see the devastation for himself. But it could be a pretty tense visit. This week, Trump said he did not think the federal government should give California any aid until the state makes changes to its water management. He also says he wants to have a big discussion about FEMA in general, saying he'd rather, quote, see the states take care of their own problems. The president has also been publicly fighting with California's Governor Gavin Newsom. As of last night, Newsom said he had yet to hear from Trump about his trip, but that he's planning to show up at the airport to meet the president, whether he's invited or not. Meanwhile, the governor signed a relief package yesterday worth $2.5 billion to help the Los Angeles area recover from wildfires, though some early estimates say the damage from the fires could end up costing many more billions than that. Meanwhile, firefighters are still battling fires across Southern California. Several more small ones broke out over the last couple of days, but crews have been able to get control over them. As the larger fires around the Los Angeles area are still threatening thousands of homes, firefighters are getting a better chance at extinguishing the flames for good this weekend since rain is in the forecast, and the red flag warning expires this morning. We have more news for you still ahead, but first, a quick break to thank our sponsor, Ancient Nutrition. For thousands of years, explorers searched for the mythical fountain to restore youth and cure anything. And it was never found, despite what some people on social media may try to tell you. But hey, we do have collagen at least. It's surely not a miracle, but it is proven to help you look and feel more healthy. Ancient Nutrition's mission is to create high-quality supplements that combine the best of ancient wisdom and modern science. Ancient Nutrition's multi-collagen advanced lean supplement contains 10 types of collagen from 10 real food-based sources. It's powered by clinically studied ingredients that promote healthy weight management and building lean muscle. Collagen can also reduce joint discomfort and improve the look and growth of your skin, hair, and nails. So I love knowing that I'm doing something good for my body every day by adding just a scoop of this in my morning smoothie or coffee, and it helps me feel my best. Right now, Ancient Nutrition is even offering 25% off your first order when you go to ancientnutrition.com/newsworthy. That's ancientnutrition.com/newsworthy for 25% off your first order. ancientnutrition.com/newsworthy. Now back to the news. The long wait to see pandas in the nation's capital is finally over. Qingdao and Bao Li make their public debut at the National Zoo today. The 3-year-old pandas arrived in the fall, but they needed a few months to get used to their new home. Zookeepers have also been slowly acclimating them to crowds and training them to respond to certain signals. Remember, the zoo's last pandas were returned to China near the end of 2023. Qingdao and Bao Li will be in Washington for at least a decade now at a cost of $1 million a year for China's wildlife conservation. Even more pandas may be coming, since zoo officials hope the bears will produce offspring when they're old enough. If you're not able to make it to DC to see the pandas in person, you can always check out the Panda Cam. It will live stream from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern. We've included a link in today's episode notes. The family behind a major opioid producer has agreed to a landmark $6.5 billion settlement. The Sackler family owns Purdue Pharma, makers of OxyContin, one of the drugs that played a role in the opioid epidemic. Yesterday, the family agreed to a new deal several months after the Supreme Court rejected a $6 billion deal because it guaranteed the family immunity from future legal liability. Now, the Sacklers will not have immunity, but they will have access to a $200 million fund they can use for legal fees, and that number could go up to $800 million. Any money not used after 5 years will go back to the states. It's a unique arrangement, but the 15 states involved in the lawsuit say they're on board, since the settlement will pay victims a significant amount of money over the next 3 years, though a bankruptcy judge still has to approve this deal. There's a new artificial intelligence tool that can buy your groceries, book flights, make reservations for you, and more, all by itself. ChatGPT maker OpenAI announced Operator. Operator opens as a separate browser when a user is in ChatGPT. From there, it can follow directions like order dinner from a Thai restaurant nearby or book a hotel with an ocean view in Florida. But Operator is trained to confirm with the user before completing these tasks. For now, Operator is still in its early days, and for security reasons, it cannot send emails or cancel calendar events. And it can run into issues if a user gives it too many tasks or if it runs into a complicated website. But OpenAI says it will work to improve Operator going forward. Right now, it's only available to people who pay for Pro plans in the US. Oscar nominations are out, and Netflix's drug cartel musical, Emilia Perez, leads the way with 13. Emilia Perez also made history thanks to its star, Carla Sofia Gascon. She became the first openly transgender actor to receive an Oscar nomination. She's up for Best Actress. But another Best Actress nominee could also make history if she wins. The star of Wicked, Cynthia Erivo, could become the youngest EGOT winner. There weren't too many surprises. The most notable snub was Denzel Washington, who was expected to get a nod for his role in Gladiator 2. Compared to other years, there's no clear frontrunner in the race for the most coveted Academy Award, Best Picture. The Brutalist won the Golden Globe for Best Drama, while Emilia Perez won Best Comedy or Musical. Other Best Picture nominees, like Wicked, Anora, and Conclave, are also considered real contenders for a trophy. Another way this year's nominees are different than in years past, all of the Best Picture nominees deal with big societal issues in some way. The Academy Awards are happening Sunday, March 2nd, starting at 7 p.m. Eastern on ABC and streaming on Hulu. Comedian Conan O'Brien will host. Well, that's it for the main news today, so now it's time for Feel Good Friday, when we bring you one extra feel-good or positive news story before the weekend. But first, this episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. Life is not about New Year's resolutions that just fade away by February anyway. In fact, the more I try to plan the perfect day or week or even new year, the more I have to accept that life is unpredictable. We are constantly forced to revise our written-out plans and to-do lists, right? So think of therapy as your editorial partner, helping you to revise and write new chapters in the meaningful story you deserve to live alongside the chaos. Therapy has continued to show me that it's not about ignoring or denying life's curveballs, but instead learning to accept and manage them in the best way in order to thrive. And honestly, sometimes it's just about getting everything off my chest to someone who will know exactly what to say with no judgment, so I can then move on quickly. BetterHelp makes it easy to get started with therapy since it's all online. It's affordable, convenient, and has thousands of credentialed therapists. And I do recommend switching therapists at no extra cost until you find the right one for you. So write your story with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/newsworthy today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/newsworthy. Now back to Feel Good Friday. A delivery driver in Indiana got the tip of a lifetime for getting a pizza to customers during a snowstorm, $32,000. It's a happy ending to a story that started with the driver getting hardly anything. The driver, named Connor Stefanoff, had to walk a quarter mile in the snow because a bus crash had closed the street. Fortunately, a police officer named Richard Craig was working the crash and was amazed to see the 20-year-old delivery man trekking through a winter storm. Craig started recording. When he found out how much he was tipped, the police officer was shocked. He says Stefanoff got a meager $2 on a $40 order in an affluent neighborhood. So he gave him the $15 he had with him that night and posted about it online. Craig's video went viral on TikTok, and when he saw how much interest it was getting, he set up a GoFundMe. He set a goal of $500, but nearly $33,000 poured in. Stefanoff, who drives his grandma's car for deliveries, says he'll put the money toward a vehicle and college tuition. All right, thank you so much for listening. We'll be back tomorrow talking about the home insurance crisis in America, from the impact of the LA fires in California to why and how insurance companies are renewing fewer policies across the country. Join us for that special edition Saturday episode tomorrow, then again on Monday for another Daily News Roundup. For now, have a great weekend.